Hello, my name is Song. Today I'll be doing my presentation of the assignment one, Shadow of the Crooked Hollow. For character design, this is the first character I created. Her name is Lara Smith. She's the hero of the story, and her appearance is that she have big haunting blue eyes and dark circles under her eyelids from sleepless nights. Her coat is dirty and messy, and her hands are covered in dirt and a lot of goo, like the weird black goo from the antagonist. The background of this character is that she was a cryptozoologist. She returned home to a small cabin after long years of studying to found out her brother committed suicide. Her obsession with the rural superstition masks a deep fear of her own mind unraveling. The goal of this character is to uncover the truth behind her brother's death and the mysterious creatures that did it. And the flaws of this character, she's very obsessive, she's prone to hallucination, and she have a weird mental instability where she's not sure what's real, what's fake anymore. For the second character, the Hollow One, is the shadow of the story. The age of this creature is unknown, the gender identity is non-human, and the appearance of this creature is a tall, monstrous humanoid with a body made out of stitched flesh and wood from the woods, and the faces of its victim can be seen crying out for help and eternally screaming. The background of this character is that was born from violent injustice from the nearby town. The Hollow One is a curse that echoes the voices of women and children who was falsely accused and sacrificed decades and years ago. The village tried to cover up the truth, but the forest never forgot what the villagers did. Doing so, it reanimate this creature, and over the years, it grew stronger and stronger by feeding off the grief and shame of the townsfolk. The goal of this creature is to force Lara and the town itself to face what it did and what was hidden through all the years. And it wants the truth to be known, no matter the cost. It doesn't kill for fun or pleasure. It shows people the dark truth and kill those who have wronged others. The flaws of this creature is that it's bound to the cursed land of Crooked Hollow. It doesn't act outside of its territory and exists between worlds, and it's vulnerable when the line between memory and reality is blurred. It is a prisoner of the very pain that gives it power. This third character, Tina Hay. She's the ally slash mentor. She's 12 and she have a weird appearance of a small little ghost-like girl with unnaturally pale skin, long and tangled black hair, and her nightgown looks decades old, torn at the edge, stained with mud, and she walks barefoot, yet her feet aren't dirty, or her hands. She have big eyes, seem to stare through people, and she always appears when Lara thinks she's alone. The background of this character is that she was disappeared 40 years ago. The town buried the truth, saying, "Oh, the curse took her," but when in fact she was offered to it. Well, now she lingers in between, not fully knowing if she's dead or alive. She guides Lara not only out of pity, but because Lara's journey might just end what is happening to her and stop the town from needing another sacrifice. Her goal is that she wants the truth to be seen and the curse to end, not just for Lara, but for herself. She's trapped between life and death as the town forgotten sacrifice. She guides Lara towards the truth in hopes of finally being released, whenever that freedom comes through redemption or another sacrifice. But she isn't sure. But she knows the cycle must break. For her flaws, she's caught in a liminal state, never fully ghost nor fully human. Her mind flickers with memories of other sacrifices and victims. Sometimes she's kind, sometimes she's cruel, sometimes she's angry, sometimes she's sad. Very unstable character, and her connections to the curse give her insights to help her give information to Lara, but doing so also makes her a potential vessel for its power, being absorbed by the Crooked One, or the Hollow One. Lara doesn't know if Tina is a friend or a foe. For now, let's get to the narrative design. For narrative design, the narrative genre for this story is that it's a psychological supernatural horror. The story blends psychological horror with natural supernatural mysteries. It explores human emotions like grief, guilt, generational trauma, and the thin veil between reality and madness with the supernatural horror in it, while inviting the audience to question if it's real or it's not. The setting of this story is that it's in a town called Crooked Hollow, while the forest is called Crooked Forest of Crooked Hollow Forest. It's a small, isolated rural town surrounded by a dense forest and shadowed hills, once thriving, now shrouded in decay and silence. It's marked by abandoned homes, overgrown trails, and residents who harbor dark secrets. In central in the town is Crooked Hollow Forest, a cursed and eerie woodland filled with whispers, apparitions, and a haunting presence known as the Hollow One. Act 1. To set up for Act 1, Laura returns to Crooked Hollow after years away, investigating her brother's death. Disturbing encounters with the townspeople and visions of the Hollow One introduce core mystery and tension with the audience. In the ordinary world, first she was just skeptical. Yet, the trauma-driven world as a cryptozoologist disconnects from her hometown, emotionally and isolated by the unresolved grief. Call to adventure to the story is her brother's suicide. The cryptic messages and folklore draws her back to Crooked Hollow, compelling her to seek out answers and closure. Refusal of the call. At first, she was hesitant, driven by fear of confronting painful memories of the past, unresolved guilt, and doubting her mental stability of the situation. Doing so, she meets the mentor, Tina. She appears as a supernatural guide, offering cryptic yet essential clues to help her find the truth, forcing Laura to question reality and guiding her emotional journey. Cross the first threshold. After everything, Laura now fully committed as she entered the Crooked Hollow Forest, symbolically stepping into her darkest fears and accepting the risk of uncovering painful truth. For Act 2, the confrontation, Laura delves deeper into Crooked Hollow's folklore and discovered Tina, whose ghostly revelation highlights the town's dark past and Lara's own suppressed guilt. Psychological tension peaks as Lara battles her own sanity while being pursued by the Hollow One. And now for tests and allies and enemies, Lara faces hostile townspeople and psychological manipulation by the Hollow One, and by doing so, she had to navigate the ambiguous alliance with Tina, intensifying her emotional vulnerability. In Act 2, we approach to the innermost cave. Lara confronts town elders, uncovering the complicity in the curse and revealing her brother's hidden role, amplifying her emotional turmoil. Lara endures a psychological confrontation with her deepest fears and guilt physically manifesting through the Hollow One, forcing her to confront the trauma she suppressed for years. And as a reward, Lara achieved profound insight into the origins of both the curse and her own emotional wound, gaining strength from accepting the truth. Act 3, the resolution, like confronting both external and internal truth, Laura realized she must accept her personal guilt and the town's collective sins. She confronted the Hollow One, revealing the truth behind the curse, and offering potential liberation or doom for herself and the town. The road back it determined to heal herself, Laura and the town prepares emotionally and mentally for the final confrontation with the creature. Resurrection. In the final showdown, Laura openly acknowledged her guilt and grief, dismantling the Hollow One's power by breaking the cycle of silence, denial, and repression the town did to them. With the return When she returned home, she felt transformed, carrying emotional healing, newfound peace, and haunting wisdom. Her return changes Crooked Hollow, liberating both herself and the town from the pain they've long endured. Now we can go to critical analysis of the story. So for each character, Lara being the hero, she embodies the hero archetype, driven by trauma, guilt, and self-discovery, confronting inner and external horrors. For the second character, Shadow, the Hollow One symbolizes the Shadow archetype, embodying collective guilt, fears, and suppressed sins of the Crooked Hollow. For the third character, Tina, the ally and the mentor, she served as the ally and mentor archetype, guiding Lara through like messages and clues and bridging the supernatural encounters, helping her uncover truth and make the right choice in certain scenarios. So narrative trope. For narrative trope, it employs like a classic horror trope, like returning to a haunted hometown to confront past trauma or uncovering sins of like buried hidden things that's deep rooted in like a community with guilt and denial, or the cursed forest the curse forecast, like symbolizing the dangers of suppressed emotion, psychological truth. It also features spectral guide, like Tina, as like a trope, a figure who like provides supernatural wisdom, yet represents unresolved past sacrifices. So for stereotype and cliches, so to help avoid stereotype like helpless females or pure evil villain or simplistic townspeople, and to avoid helpless females, we decided to give Lara like she's not just like those helpless one. She's smart, she's independent, she's proactive, guided. She is guided but not controlled by Tina. So her emotion vulnerabilities are presented as like realistic psychological reactions, emphasizing depth and humanity rather than helplessness. For the pure evil, rather than having a villain that's evil for like no reason, we decided to go like the Hollow One embodies the like complex symbolism related to guilt, trauma, and serve as like a representation of the sus- sus- hidden sins rather than like a mere traditional evil antagonist. Simplistic depictions of the townsfolk, like for that stereotype, we decided to not show them as like simple and arrogant townspeople. Instead, we depict them as complicated characters, shaped by tragedy of of what happened and the loss, driven by complex emotion rather than superficial like malice or ignorance. And cliches that I avoided and the justification behind it is jump scares. Instead of just those basic jump scares that's predictable, instead I decided to go for psychological tension, atmosphere, symbolism. For the other one is unmotivated supernatural threats. Instead of having supernatural elements happen for no reason, the story adds in human emotions, guilt, grief, making their presence purposeful and symbolic. And the show don't tell, the narrative would effectively implement show don't tell by illustrating Lara's internal struggles through actions and vivid imagery, rather than direct explanation of what's going on. For instance, like when Lara grief would be shown through moments of hesitation, scared, her hands trembling, and flashbacks triggered by certain objects or certain things. And the townspeople guilt and secrecy would be perceived through glances and whispers while Laura's walking through the town, and when she asks about something, they become defensive. And the Hollow One presence will be depicted through sensory reasons like shifting in the background, abnormal wind, or feeling oppressed dread rather than direct, enhancing psychological tension and the immersion of the story. For genre convention, matching horror styles by creating tension, fear, and using creepy locations like the woods, abandoned homes, and isolating secrets, emotional struggles, and supernatural threats and mysteries tied to local folklore. The character experience psychological breakdown, enhancing the horror feeling. Settings are designed to feel eerie using the dark forest, like I said. And the narrative also explored deep emotional psychological themes like grief, guilt, and denial, important parts of the psychological horror. Generative AI challenges, the challenges I dealt with it was really difficult to produce portraits that's accurately shown, and emotional depth is also shown in the character, with it being AI. Consistency in the appearance and specific personality trait often the AI produced overly like generic expressions, making characters seem unrealistic. These changes were resolved by carefully selecting prompts that emphasize emotional context and repeatedly refining the images by changing certain things and adding it together. And these are the references. Like for the first prompt I used for character Lara, for character one, Lara Smith, is like a woman in her late 20s. Like her hair is a mess. She has pale skin. Her eyes are tired, dark circles. She's wearing a long dark coat to show like oh she was a professor or like student, and her hands is stained with ink or black goo, standing in like a forest, like a ghost figure in the background, like the hollow one. And the atmosphere is like moody, evoking like horror. For the hollow one, I went for a tall creature, humanoid-ish, with twisted bark and bone and glowing red eyes to add the natural look of a scary monster. From the chest, where like distorted face, you can see the faces of the victims. And for the character three is a 12-year-old girl, pale skin, long tangled hair, wearing an old-fashioned nightgown. It's a bit torn and dirty. Her eyes are large, like staring through someone like a distant stare. She stands barefoot, but for some reason she's not dirty. Surrounded by like twisted trees, and the atmosphere is eerie, cinematic, like showing that she's not of this world. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening.